I'm here. I came from a family of writers, and my dinner table was like a writing room. My father was a television writer, my mother was a novelist, my sister became a television writer. You had to be on your game, and the food wasn't very good. So nobody's gonna be busy eating. You actually had to have something to say.
I think the reason I'm a storyteller has a lot to do with the family that I grew up in and the culture of sitting around a table and talking, specifically on a Friday night with your grandparents and your parents and cousins and extended family. I don't think anybody listened to me, so I became a television writer to make sure that people were listening, but I really learned it at home.
Hello, I'm David Kohan.
I'm Max Mutchnick.
And this is the Storyteller Spotlight.
Dave and I kind of grew up together. We went to high school. We were both graduating from college, and our personal story is totally related to our work in that Dave Kohan was the first person I ever came out to, and he was what you want every straight ally to be, which was kind and non-judgmental and made me feel like I was going to be okay, and it truly affected the way I saw the world moving forward, and I think that more than anything kind of bonded us and got me very comfortable with saying, let's tell some real stories, some honest stories about what we've experienced as friends.
When we were in our late 20s and early 30s, we wrote about Will and Grace, who were in their late 20s and early 30s. Now that we are significantly older, we're writing about people who are significantly older. It is our experience. That is how we've evolved.
We were always interested in writing older characters. Again, going back to kind of our family experience, we were surrounded by funny older people, and then all these years later, there was a strike, and we decided to give it another shot. I had the best dinner of my career, which was in New York with Ryan Murphy, and I said, David and I are thinking about writing something that's a little bit like a gay Golden Girls, to use a shorthand, and he said, put a pin in that, I want that, and I want to bring that to Disney, and here we are.
The working title that we had was Desert Queens, and we kept saying it, but it's like, it'll change at some point. We were sitting around the table, and because we knew it was going to be in Palm Springs, which is, you know, the mid-century modern is,
Mecca.
Yeah, it's the Mecca for that as the architectural style. And I think you were the one who said, what about just that as a title? And it seemed to speak to a lot of things. These are people who are in their mid-century. It's a modern take on that, and it speaks to the aesthetics of the place as well. It seemed to all coalesce in this phrase, and it felt meant to be.
We never see each other.
We FaceTime every night.
I use a filter. It's barely even me. You'll both move in here. Let's be together while we still can, like a family.
We turned this script over to Ryan. First, there was the introduction to Nathan Lane to play the part of Bunny Schneiderman.
Ryan Murphy called me and said, I have this script written by Max Mutchnick and David Kohan, who created Will and Grace. Jimmy Burrows is going to direct it. I've never done a multicam before, but I'd like to do this one because I think the script is so brilliant and funny and moving. And he said the dreaded phrase, it's sort of the gay Golden Girls. So I said, okay, I'll try not to hold that against it. And then I read the script, and it was as great as he had said it was. That's it. That's where it begins and ends. It begins and ends with the writing. If you don't have the writing, you don't have anything.
Go pick a bedroom, just not the one that smells like Nivea and disapproval, because that's my mother's.
And then a couple of days after that, Ryan suggested that we rewrite one of the characters and consider Matt Bowman.
I like your moves.
Oh, I'm a flight attendant. I call this one, we're experiencing some turbulence.
You are so hot.
You know I'm gay, right?
Isn't that just a word?
I realized that I'd spent more or less the past decade of my career really exploring a lot of repression and trauma and characters and going down a lot of dark roads. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. They all changed me for the better. But I thought, I need to go to work and laugh. Thankfully, it was several months later, I got the phone call from Ryan Murphy telling me about the show, and I had worked with Max Mutchnick and David Kohan, who are our brilliant writers on Will and Grace, and our director, Jimmy Burrows, as well on Will and Grace. And they told me Nathan Lane was starring in it, who was an all-time icon for me, and Nathan Lee Graham.
The journey was really, really simple and really, really easy because Max Mutchnick and David Kohan made it so. I had a couple of Zooms with them. They sought me out through my agents, and then I had a wonderful chemistry read with the incredible Nathan Lane. And that was it, kids. I got the gig. I get a chance to act and recite these amazing words by the best writers in the business. And then, of course, I'm directed by the godfather of television, Jimmy Burrows. What a magical time.
Bagel chips, who cares? I had a revelation.
The family you choose is really where the heart lives in this series.
It's about getting older, which is something as specifically gay as the show can be, is something everyone can relate to. This setup is reminiscent of the Golden Girls in that it is about a chosen family. It is about a group of friends deciding to live together. It's instigated by my character, Bunny Schneiderman. He's a very wealthy and successful manufacturer of women's bras. He and his two closest friends, Jerry, played by the great Matt Bomer, and Arthur, played by the great Nathan Lee Graham, come back to his house in Palm Springs where he lives with his mother Sybil, played by the late great Linda Lavin. Bunny is, he's a lonely character. He's never had a great romance in his life. He's had relationships, but nothing long-term. And so he's been quite shaken up by the death of this fourth character, George, who was the other part of this group of friends.
Poor George. It'll never be the four of us again. The end of an era.
Stop trying to make yourself cry.
And so after this funeral, as they're reminiscing, he says, "Why can't this be the rest of our lives?"
I have found the love of my life.
Interesting because
It's you two. This French.
For this group of men, it's really this community that they've built together where they really can be their most authentic selves.
And it's really a backbone of the LGBTQ community. We take people in. We don't push anybody out. And it's better to have people inside the tent. And so that's really the basis of the heart space on this show, I think.
It's also a wish fulfillment. Like, assuming, you didn't have, you didn't get married, you didn't have a significant other, and you didn't have children. And then you thought to yourself, well, what was the best time of my life? It was when I was living with this group of friends who I felt closer to than I've ever felt to anybody in my life.
Of course, there are trials and tribulations that come with all of that, and that's what makes for the comedy of the show. But at the end of the day, they love each other deeply for who they are.
But give me a hug anyway. You're still family.
as are you, sort of a beloved but racist aunt.
I hadn't seen this before. It was an R-rated multicam. So they had the freedom, because it's on a streamer, to, in terms of language and situation, to go much further.
You said find a gay-friendly motel near the airport. I thought you'd like it because it's French. The Chauvet Inn. It's shove it in, isn't it?
It was more than just funny. It was beautifully drawn characters.
You have a broad perspective for someone who hasn't actually lived through anything.
Excuse me. I've had my share of tragedy.
please. You were what, 4 years old when the towers fell?
Yes, but I was 27 when This Is Me Now from the Dreams of Jennifer Lopez came out.
Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. About my character, Arthur Broussard. He is an editor of fashion. His job is to let people know what looks good. And he really loves that. He loves to help people feel their best on the outside, so maybe they feel better on the inside. He tells you what you need to hear, and sometimes what you don't need to hear, but it comes from a loving place.
I'm kind of a nervous flyer. You'd think I'd be good with it. My father's a flight attendant.
That might be a good thing to journal about. I love Jerry, I love Bunny, I love Sybil. Loved working with Miss Linda Lavin. But Jerry is, let's say, quite attractive, very sincere, very innocent. I wouldn't say he's dumb. As the great poet once said, I like big butts and I cannot lie.
Well, it doesn't rhyme, but if a poet said it, it must be right.
Then you have Bunny, who has all the money in the world. He's so generous, so loving, but he could be a little insecure at times, but he's my dear friend. He and Jerry both are my dear friends. So what do?
We hug.
We all want to be seen and validated and loved for our most authentic selves. And sometimes we get that in the family we're born into, and sometimes we have to find that in others. And sometimes it's a combination of both.
I think the humanity of this show is amazing because you'll see yourself in these different situations and how we get out of them. It's exciting to play someone who is going to help you maybe solve a problem or two. It's a beautiful show that brings community together. And we are best when we are together, loving on each other, laughing on each other, having all these things go together.
The gift of this show and the reason why it felt like it was working is because every time we found ourselves in an uncomfortable place where we didn't know how we were going to write ourselves out of this corner, we just told the truth. And it set us free, to use a phrase. And that was even present when we suffered the profound loss of Linda dying.
Hope my tires don't deflate.
Not easy growing old, is it?
But it's where we are.
The arc of the season, it was going in one direction, and then tragically, Linda Lavin died. So that was, shocking and devastating, and threw us all for a loop. I think there were 3 more episodes to do.
Bunny, you okay?
Sybil died.
What?
She's dead. My mother's dead.
The reason why we were able to get through that is because we just told the true story of what happened to us, and we made it what happened to these characters on the show.
And what happened to Steve, her husband.
Yeah.
Max and David had asked her husband if they could use what had happened, the conversation that he had with Linda just before she died.
I pulled up to the club. She was standing right there. And when she got in the car, she said, I'm not feeling so good. But she looked okay. I mean, maybe a little pale. And I said, don't worry. I'll take you home. You'll lie down. I'll get you a tea. You'll be fine. And then she said, okay. But when I got to the first light, she said, Bunny, I think maybe you should take me to the hospital. So I get nervous. I start driving a little fast, and she says, I love you. Don't get a ticket. She said that a few times. I love you. Don't get a ticket. And I said, I love you too, Ma. Are you okay? And I noticed she was having a little trouble breathing. So I rolled down the window to give her some air. And it helped, I think. But then she grabbed my hand and looked at me and said, if if I die, I love you. And I said, you're not gonna die, Ma. And I start driving really fast, and I must have been going 90. And I'm waiting for her to say, don't get a ticket. But she doesn't say anything. So I look over and
It started as a usual episode where it was very funny, and then, as often happens in life, and as it happened in this instance, it was overwhelmingly emotional.
It was Linda's edict when this happened that we tell the truth and we include every bit of what was going on for her. We never thought that it was going to go to this place, but she set a tone, and that was for us to write the truth and to put it into the show, and she gave us the permission to do that, and we hope that we honored her correctly in doing so. Linda brought a truth and an honesty and a way of living and a life spirit to this show from day one, and I think it set an example for the entire season, that certainly the episodes that we did with her, but it was still present after she was gone.
Loss happens, death happens, and it happened to us, and it happens to these characters. And what do? What choice do you have? You have to soldier on. That person will always be a part of you. You lament the loss. You bring the people in your life closer to you to help you, give you strength, and laugh with you, and then you go on living your life, because that's what you do, and that was our approach to that episode.
Linda was such an incredible leader in so many ways. Not only as an actor, she was a master of this craft and this medium. She could do anything. She could do drama, comedy, she could sing, she could play piano, all masterfully. And she led this whole set with such a grace and a generosity of spirit and just a beautiful, loving presence. So we were all incredibly shocked and saddened by the loss of her. And she's irreplaceable, there's no question about it. But what she does leave behind is a legacy of love and joy and commitment to craft and to just crushing it at every chapter of her career and every phase of her career. And so I'm really grateful that for the time I had with her. I'm grateful for the conversations I had with her. I'm grateful for the wisdom she was willing to share with me. And I'm grateful for the humanity that she showed all of us.
The way you honor Linda Lavin's memory is by celebrating all things good and great. She was a wonderful entertainer. This woman worked from the age of 5 to 87. She was beautiful. She could literally do anything, and she did everything. She was so supportive and such a nurturer. She really taught me how to listen better. She looked you square in the eyes and just listened. That's how we honor her, by being the best we can possibly be. I love Linda. I love Linda Lavin. I want people who watch this show to feel good about themselves, first and foremost. That's the most important thing you can get from this, I think, is to have a good time, maybe see something from a different angle, but most importantly, feel good about who you are as a person.
So a show like this, I think, will seem refreshing, and the fact that it's so kind of outrageous and funny and heartfelt, and I think, look, I just think everyone's going to need to laugh. So, I think it will provide that, but I hope these are characters that an audience will invest in emotionally as well.
I want people to just have a good time when they watch this show. I don't necessarily want to beat any messages into anybody. I just want them to come to the show and see people and expose themselves to people who are probably just like them, regardless of who they are, and have a struggle with a lot of the same things they struggle with, and laugh about a lot of the same things they laugh with, and make colossally bad decisions the way we all do at times, and realize that we are all human, and to laugh along the way, and hopefully get some joy out of the show.
I grew up in a house where my grandmother always said, "I'm gonna go watch my stories," right? And that meant something, right? That was about soap operas, right? But it was an escape for her. And I hope that that's what this show can be right now at this time, because there's a lot of very difficult things that most of the country is dealing with. And the idea that we can give or create 25 minutes of grace for people to just escape and to watch a funny story that is not going to be about any of the things that they're watching on the news is my hope and prayer for this show, that you just get to enjoy yourself and get away from your life and laugh.
Bun, if you found this, you're practicing. Good for you, my beautiful son. Enjoy the cookies. Just 2.
Oh, won't you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I'll be there ere long. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again. Some